Hi guys, Aaron here. Welcome to the workshop. Today we're going to talk about wheels. So here's my bike set up with my brand new Enve SES 5.6 rim brake tubeless wheels. If you watch my channel, then you know that previously I've run the SES 4.5s in a clincher format, and these rims are the successors to those. So this is Enve's kind of mid-depth all-around wheel set, and basically 4.5 was the longest running of the lot. It has been around in one way or another since 2014, so that's quite a long time, and it was lacking some of the features of the more up-to-date models. For example, the 7/8. These are much wider, have a different shape, and are tubeless ready when you compare them to the 4.5s which I've run. Now I wasn't really planning to upgrade the 4.5s, even though the 5.6s have come out, but I've managed to find a buyer for those, and then I decided that it's going to be a lot more convenient to run the 5.6s, because honestly there was nothing really wrong with the 4.5s as such. So why is it much more convenient? Well, for my time trial bike I run the 7/8 basically all the time. In my road bike, however, I have been switching between 4.5s and 7/8s, and that created a problem because every time I did that I had to readjust the brakes because the rims were a completely different width, the 4.5s being much narrower. And also I had to keep two different tire types and also mess around with latex tubes because the 4.5s weren't tubeless ready. Now though, the 5.6s are tubeless ready, so exact same type of tire. I'm using the Schwalbe Pro ones here, of course set up tubeless, and the 5.6s are, and ears make no difference, just as wide as the 7.8s, probably a couple tenths of a millimeter different, but not that much really to necessitate adjusting the brakes. So it's much more convenient in this manner. So what else has changed apart from that? So if I compare the 4.5s, then rim weight hasn't really changed much. The depth, as the name suggests, has increased a bit. So the front one has increased from 48 millimeters to 54, I think. The rear one went from 56 to 63, so 6 and 5 millimeters respectively, and the widths have grown from 27 to 29 in the front, and from 20, I don't really remember how wide those were, something around 26 or 25, so quite narrow in the rear. Now it's 28, so very up to date. Also, if you look at the profile, you can notice that it has a much more stubby and blunt rim shape, both front and rear. Of course the rear one is a bit sharper, has a different curvature to suit the different needs of the rear wheel, but from the distance it doesn't really look all that different from the 4.5s, but if you look at them up close it becomes apparent. Okay, so that's about the rims. Hub wise, I haven't gone for the Enve carbon hubs this time. I've gone for the for the Italian made carbon TI straight pull hubs, which basically are the same weight, have wider bracing angles, and are very nice to service and use generally. I have these on basically all other rims that I've built up recently, or I've had built up, and yeah, I'm very satisfied with them. And also, despite being the same weight, they cost around 500 euros less for the pair, so that's a good chunk saved. I was worried that maybe the shifting will need to be adjusted between the two hubs, but luckily that's not the case. As for the skewers, I've gone for the Enve titanium ones, the newer design. These are not very aero, quite bulky, but they're super stiff, super secure, and should prevent wheel rub. Spokes, I didn't use Sapim CX rays because people tend to have brake rub. If you compare a very stiff rim like this with those noodly spokes, you get wheel or brake rub. So I went for the DT new Aero spokes, which are a bit thicker, a bit heavier as well, but I'm willing to go that way. I should remove these stickers as well soon. So what do you get with a pair of rims? So these are a custom built set, so I had to buy the wheel bag separately and the skewers as well. But for the rims themselves, you do get a pair of brake pads, valve extenders for tubes, and a tubeless kit, which comes with this nice black anodized valve, and it has actually a square bung at the bottom to fit exactly into the valley of the rim. Seated first time, no leaks whatsoever. And back when I got the 7/8, Enve were supplying a tape that didn't really set my heart on fire, but this red one, this really is the good stuff. It's the best tubeless tape I've used so far. It has a very strong adhesive. It's very conformable, so it sits very nicely into the channel of the rim, and it isn't prone to splitting, so win-win. And it's super thin as well, so very nice stuff. The tubeless setup itself was on for the first time. One thing I found out that for first I wanted to put on a Silca speed shield with its own nut specific to that, but when I used that combo the valve was leaking, so I had to go back to the stock setup. What I want to do is cut a bigger hole into the speed shield so it just goes over this lock nut, it doesn't interfere with it, and just stick it on, and hopefully that would get me the best of both worlds in terms of performance and sealing. Sealant wise, I've used around 30 mils of Schwalbe sealant, which is Stans, the same stuff, and yeah, no problems with sealing. As I said, 25 mil Schwalbe Pro ones, measuring up. I haven't actually measured these, but from the look of it, they do measure beyond 27, I think, 27, 28 maybe. Weight wise, the wheel set weighs 1430 grams, plus or minus, give or take a couple of grams. My whole bike like this, as you can see it, weighs 7 kilos flat, which is pretty damn good, I think, for an aero bike and this depth of wheels. I've also managed to put in a pretty long ride on this setup today, and I already got a couple of first impressions, and I have to say these wheels don't really feel all that different from the 4.5s. Are they faster? I don't have a drag measuring device in any part of my body, so impossible to tell. Enve says they are, and given they've had 4 years of development behind them, I have no reason not to trust them, particularly after seeing the blistering wind tunnel data from the 7.8s. They also say the stability has improved. I can testify to that. That's a thing I can definitely feel with any wheel, and I reckon this is pretty much the most, or one of the most stable wheels I have ridden, and I have ridden many. Today was extremely windy, and when you're riding these wheels in the crosswinds, you just can't tell. It just I weigh only 60 kilos but had no wind steer whatsoever. I have very little with the 7.8s. With these, it's just non-existent, so for me there's really no reason to go any shallower. Braking. The brake track has carried over, so that means excellent braking power and modulation in the wet and in the dry, so pretty much the best on the market. In terms of braking, that's another thing you can feel. Weight wise or stiffness wise, I don't know, the cornering feel, that's very good. Also down to the very grippy tires, but things just gone on rails, so no problem with that. I was very confident in the descent. Ride quality, that's up to the tires mostly. I've overinflated them a little bit to 100 psi. That's a bit too much for my weight, but these are the first time tubeless setup. I've ridden these the first time, so I was worried there might be a slow leak, so I put on a little more pressure, but there was no leak. So it was a bit harsh like this, but I have to fiddle around with the tire pressure some more because I have tons of volume, if you look at it, to play with, so a low pressure could be very beneficial. I think I've covered all of the aspects. Price wise, of course, being Enve, the rims are going to be expensive, but you get a 5-year warranty and lifelong crash replacement. So if you look at it from a long-term perspective, it's a no-brainer really. With this hub set, the complete wheel itself is not extravagantly expensive as with the carbon hubs, and it performs, I think, hands down the best, because well, I've ridden many wheels, and yeah, these I've stuck to the Enves and they're just my favorite. So yeah, if you're looking to build up a rim brake bike in 2018 for racing, then this is definitely it. Not many people have actually heard about it. It was more of a quiet release because, well, the 5.6 disc brake wheelset has been around for a while, and this one is basically just a modernization of the 4.5. And yeah, I guess with rim brakes becoming more and more rare, it's a bit of a niche product. But if this is what you're looking for, then definitely it's the top pick. Just like basically every other Enve product. So yeah, I'm very satisfied with them so far. In every aspect, they've met my expectations. And of course, the main reason I wanted to go tubeless, apart from the compatibility, so they're the same, is basically the very low chance of getting a puncture. So basically, ever since I've been running tubeless, I've stopped carrying my service kit in here, my saddlebag, because honestly, if I look at it from a statistical view, it just makes no sense, and this way the chances are even lower. Okay, so this is all I have to say for now about the Enve 5.6s. If you'd like to know more about the stuff that I use for different disciplines, then don't forget to tune into the channel and subscribe. It's all for today. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.